Hey everybody, it's the Commodore from the Clan of the Grey Wolf, and you are watching the weekly Wringer series here on clanofthegreywolf.com. Some of you will be saying, well, at long last, and I think that's probably pretty fitting. PAX East definitely ran up to us in a very quick way, and the recovery time needed after it seemed to take longer than I thought it would. So I apologize for it being kind of a week later before I post another video that is post PAX East. That is tough to say. But here we are, and so I want to do a little bit of, I'll talk a little bit about PAX East, but I might even do a thoughts video about PAX East in general some of the time, but there could be some things in this video that probably reflect some of the things that we saw at PAX East, so all of that is there as well, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were a few pieces of, here and this and that come out about PAX East on the site fairly soon. But before I get all into that, I want to say that, obviously we had a great question from last week. There were some really cool answers about things and stuff. Those of you that watched the video and commented know what I'm talking about. Those of you that don't are probably pretty confused. That's okay. I'm going to take some time to go through it and answer the question from last week. Give my own answer as I always do, and then we'll talk about a question for next week, which really does have a lot to do with PAX, and it has to do with, I think, a revolving trend that's going on in specifically retro gaming right now. For all of you folks that are into real retro gaming as a primary means of gaming, I think you'll be really interested in this question. All right, so first, before we even get into PAX East, I want to say that we have some new members to welcome to the video, to the episodic series here, the Weekly Wringer. It's great to have all of you out there, and I always like to spend a little time welcoming new folks to the community. For all of you that get the greeting and then let me know that it's great that you felt very welcome, that's great. That's exactly what I'm looking for with the series. I want you guys to feel welcome. When you come to the Weekly Wringer and you start commenting, I want you to feel like you're part of a community, and it's a part of a community that you meet every single week, and you have conversations about cool stuff that are really on your mind. So it's all about the community, and this week, new to the community, we have Uncle Sam's Hatchet, which I thought was a pretty cool. I thought that was a pretty cool name, Uncle Sam's Hatchet. Interesting. I'm not sure he had one, but if he does now, why not? Let's keep the narrative going. Welcome to you. The bow tie guy. Interesting. I myself am not a bow tie kind of a fellow, but perhaps the bow tie guy is. Let me also see. Lucktacular. I thought that was a pretty cool name. Lucktacular. Kind of an interesting, there must be an interesting origin story to the Lucktacular. I thought that was good. So, and then this next one, which I thought was pretty interesting, because I was going to just say D. Kuro, right? Because that's what it looks like. It looks like D. Kuro. But the icon and picture that D. Kuro has, or I guess I could go ahead and say the name, has supplied, would suggest a different phonetic pronunciation of the name, which I will attempt now. D-C-R-O. How's that? Welcome to you, D-C-R-O, and or D-Kuro, whatever you want. And welcome to all of you folks that this is your first time commenting on a Weekly Wringer video. It's great to have you as a part of the community, and I hope to see you commenting for a long time coming in the future. For those of you that were concerned, we might be missing a week, whatever the case might be, it's okay, everything's going to be fine. Just PAX East definitely took it out of me. Speaking of PAX East, let's get to that part of this. I want to say we had a great time at PAX East. Saw so many things. Saw some of you out there, as a matter of fact, which was a great treat. Always love being surprised by folks that watch every week or are big fans of the site, and all of a sudden, we're standing in line at PAX East to see an exhibit, and someone says, "Hey, how's it going, Commodore?" It's a great thing. So great to meet some of you. Great to see some of the things that we saw at the convention. There were just so many things in terms of gaming, in terms of tabletop, in terms of board games. Really, it was inspiring for me to look into some of those great, to start asking a few more questions around the tabletop and board gaming genres with the Weekly Ringer, because we haven't done a lot of that lately, and I think that's a shame. Now, what else happened at PAX? A lot of great things were going on. We saw a lot of cool panels. We had a lot of great time to enjoy the things that we were doing, but we were always very busy, and that's part of the reason why I feel like it took me a while to recover, is because we were very, very busy at PAX East. It was just kind of a whirlwind tour, so we were busy almost the entire time we were there. We were either online for something or, you know, moving to the next thing, and it is very bam, 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 so it's difficult sometimes to see everything. But I can say that we had some really good meetings about the Clan of the Grey Wolf, and I'm very happy with the direction that we're going moving forward. And you know, the entire concept of kind of a rebranding of the site was something we've had on our minds for a while, but it seems like we've started to kind of build the pieces that are required to actually do something like that. So there was a lot of great movement in terms of that in the background. So I think we've got the platform to really be able to push the website forward into the future, and I think that's a great thing coming out of PAX East. Anyway, enough about PAX East. Let's move into the question from last week, and like I say, the question for next week will have a lot to do with PAX as well, so I'll save that discussion for there. But last week I asked you guys about the stuff that surrounds the things that you like. Now, what I mean by that is there is content. Maybe it's a show, maybe it's a movie, maybe it's a video game, whatever the traditional media content you consume might be. But that's not it anymore, because now we have all of these, you know, we've got all this stuff out there on the web, mostly web-based stuff, right? That are kind of supplementary to the things that we love. And I wanted to ask you guys a question about whether or not your enjoyment was really enhanced, or was it affected at all? Was your enjoyment affected by the supplemental stuff out there for the things that you know and love? Now, we had a lot of diverse answers, so it's kind of difficult in many ways to paint with a broad brush the sentiments of the community, like I sometimes am able to do. So, but I would say by and large, folks like supplementary content as long as it's not fraught with advertising, and as long as it really does help in some ways with the enjoyment of the product itself, whatever that product might be. I think also there are a few media that really play very well with supplementary stuff, and I think some that don't play so well, but I'll tell you a little bit more about that when it becomes my turn to tell you what I think. But for now, let's jump into the comments. Furious George has talked about really, you know, enjoying the supplementary content, enjoying the stuff out there, because it allows for a lot of other cool things. Many of you talked about this, and in fact, Mr. K, the person that inspired me to ask this question and really came up with the question, I just kind of turned it a little bit, said almost the exact same thing, and that is that, you know, the availability for interaction with the creators of a particular thing, whether it be a movie, a game, a TV show, whatever, the capabilities to do things like follow them on Twitter, or, you know, like them on Facebook or what have you, and then to be able to get news and small behind-the-scenes kinds of things. That stuff, the interaction with creators is really cool. You know, and I thought the Tom Petty example specifically by Mr. K was really good. But Furious George talked about that with the My Little Pony series, the newest one, which is really talking about how the creators use all of this external stuff from the show that really is supplementary. You don't have to be involved with any of it to get the show or to be really a part of the broader community. But it really enhances it. It creates a completely new way of enjoying the show itself, and I think that's the design. I think that's the way people are hoping that it would be, right? All this stuff that's out there, that's what they're trying to do, is kind of bring everyone into a new kind of media consumption. So I think Furious George is a good point in that it is about interaction with the creators is a really great thing. The creators can give their insight into what kind of things that they do and what kind of things they enjoy to help people understand exactly how they came up with what they came up with, and even, dare I say, inspire new artists to come along and do their thing. And I think that happens for all of us, right? Clan of the Grey Wolf exists in many ways because we saw other people that were doing similar kinds of things and thought, man, why don't we do those kinds of things? We've got some stories to tell, we've got some things to do, and that's why we're here, right? DTX 180 mentions sports, and the sports supplementary material being very, very helpful. Now, forget the meteoric rise of fantasy sports for a second, and even just look at if you follow a particular team or a particular sport. The idea that you can go to a site, see some of the rumor mill stuff that's kicking around, right? Find out what players might be traded, finding out what the matchups for this week look like. It just seems very natural. And for me specifically, I know that during the week of the NFL season or even during college basketball, what have you, it's really great to be able to click on something and just open it up and say, the front page of ESPN.com will have something about, the matchup that I didn't know about or wasn't thinking quite, honestly about, and they kind of just turn it into a big story and kind of set the stage a little bit better. And what's really interesting is in sports, you see that really affecting the things, right? The games, the shows. And what I mean by that is you hear the announcers now talk about how the media have really set up an interesting battle or matchup or whatever the case might be, and they talk about that during the broadcast. Oh, well, all these people have built up this stuff on Twitter and all this stuff on ESPN and all this other stuff all week long, and now we're getting to see it play out in front of us and look, oh, it fits the narrative, or oh, this doesn't fit the narrative at all, right? So in many ways, sports is a great place to start, and I think that's why I wanted to talk about DTX 180's contribution. Sports are a great place to start because you can see directly the effects of the supplementary stuff. And fantasy sports are a completely different animal, and one that I probably don't even want to get into here. But great, great insight. Estolia talked about something that I find absolutely speaks to or gets to the heart of one of the reasons why I asked this question, and some of the things that I feel myself, which is that the stuff surrounding the things we like creates an environment whereby which you can have a kind of shared or collective, or not even really collective, but as much as, individual knowledge bases that can be kind of made available for other people, right? So you might not be an expert in a particular field, but someone else is, and maybe you're watching a show and a doctor comes on and uses a term that you're unfamiliar with, or whatever the case might be, that's supplementary to the narrative. Well, then you go and you find out that some of these folks that are in a completely different part of the world who are doctors watched the show and said, oh, well, that's very common, blah, 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 blah. This is what it means. And all of a sudden the show starts to take on kind of an OCD quality where everything you're seeing, specifically with shows like Lost, which you guys know I love very, very much, shows that do require a ton of attention or a mystery, right? You want to pay attention to every little detail to the point where you start to look in the back of something and go, oh, look at that. What is this? Hold on, pause. And then you pause it and you're going, what are the producers trying to tell me about this show right now? I got to go find out what this means. And then you go look it up and you start doing some research, and maybe you get some other people in the community talking about it. There's a wiki that goes up or whatever the case might be, and boom, you're swept up in this whole conspiracy theory vein of thought of how that one little thing in the background is really an indication of what's to come in the show. And the creators, bouncing off of Furious George's comment, the creators interacting, we know now that they definitely do that kind of stuff. They put in Easter eggs that help us understand the shows that they've built. So I happen to think Estolia's comment about really bringing the OCD geekery out of people, 100% agree, and find that to be the same with me as well. And I think it's one of the best parts of it. Lost had alternate reality games and all these other kind of things, and I was suckered into playing them just because I wanted to know as much detail as I could about the site. or about the show, and I ended up going to places like Wiki, or the Lost Wiki to find out as much detail as I could. After every episode would come out, I'd read the summary.